Buongiorno, konnichiwa, and hello. Welcome to this episode of the Sprachenzentrum's Minding Your Language series. Are you struggling to describe things that you need to? Are you hoping to improve the descriptive skills you learned in school? If so, you're in the right place. Stay tuned. Today, we'll be looking at adjective clauses, also called relative clauses, which are longer parts of a sentence used to describe things that a single adjective might have trouble doing. To do that, let's visit Linda, who's currently standing in line at the Riverbend University cafeteria. As she's looking at the menu, she sees that two meals are being offered, a hot meal and a cold meal. When she gets to the front of the line, the server asks, "Which meal would you like?" Linda replies, "The hot meal, please." Here we have the adjective hot describing the meal, but unfortunately, the server doesn't hear Linda and asks again, "Which one?" This time, Linda replies, "The meal that is hot, please." Here, she uses an adjective clause. It comes after the noun meal, but does the same job as a single adjective before the noun. It describes it. This type of clause gives us a bit more versatility when speaking and writing, and allows us to express ourselves a bit more clearly.
Quick reminder.
Clauses are what make up sentences. There are two major types of clauses, independent and dependent. All clauses have a subject and a verb, and usually also an object or a complement. An independent clause can stand alone as a sentence, as in the following example. The hot meal, subject, was, verb, good, complement. A dependent clause can't stand alone as a sentence. It depends on the independent clause. The biggest difference is that a dependent clause has something before the subject. This is usually a subordinating conjunction, like while, because, or before, or a relative pronoun, like who, whose, or that. For example, if we continue the sentence in question by adding, while the cold meal wasn't, we have a dependent clause since while is added to the beginning, and then followed by the rest of the clause. Adjective clauses are a type of dependent clause. Alright, let's get back to Linda. She's now ordered her hot meal, but she's not done yet. The server asks, "Which side would you like?" Linda takes a look at the options and sees one that looks tasty. Unfortunately, she doesn't know what it's called and must once again use her descriptive skills. "The one which has cheese on top, please," she says, using another adjective clause. The server smiles and hands her the dish. As Linda goes to pay and find a seat, let's take a quick look at the adjective clauses she's used so far. To order her meal, Linda used the phrase, "The meal that is hot, please," and to choose her side, she said, "The one which has cheese on top, please." These are both adjective clauses describing a noun before them, but why is the first word of each clause different? Well, this leads us back to the term relative pronouns. Relative pronouns are the words that begin adjective clauses. So far, we have that, which can describe people, places, and things, and which is similar to that, but doesn't describe people, rather places and things, and sometimes animals. Linda's friends seem to be waving her over to a table now. Let's follow her and see if we can add to our list of relative pronouns. As Linda sits down, she and her friends exchange greetings. Then one asks, "Hey, have you seen John?" Linda is puzzled. She can't remember John, so she asks, "Who's that?" Her friend replies, "He's the one who is always at the library, remember?" Aha! There we have our next relative pronoun, who. Unlike that and which, who is only used to describe people, and sometimes animals we're close to, like pets. This description rings a bell for Linda, and she replies, "Oh yeah, he's the guy whose cell phone you found there last week." Her friend smiles. "Exactly," she says. Linda just used our fourth relative pronoun, whose. This one's used to show possession. In this case, that the cell phone belongs to a guy, that is, John. We typically use whose for people and animals, but it can also be used for things, even if it feels a bit strange. Alright, while we've been discussing relative pronouns, Linda has started to make her way back to her dormitory to work on an English essay. Her phone pings, and she reaches to check her new text message. "What are you up to?" it says. She writes back, "I'm going to look at my essay and some feedback my teacher gave me." And here we have another possibility for the beginning of an adjective clause, but it's a little bit different than the others. We see in Linda's text reply that she used an adjective clause, but there's no relative pronoun at all. How can that be? Well, using no relative pronoun is a possibility, but only in cases where the noun the adjective clause is describing is an object in the adjective clause itself. Let's take a closer look at the example. In the sentence in question, we have the adjective clause my teacher gave me describing the noun feedback. In this particular clause, the teacher is actually the subject since she's doing the giving, that is, the action in the clause. The feedback is actually an object since it's being given. As we mentioned before, we're able to go without a relative pronoun in cases like this. We could also put one in, like that, without a problem, but it isn't necessary. A word of caution though, we can't leave the relative pronoun out if there is no object in the clause. For example, the sentence, she gave feedback that was very helpful, could not become, she gave feedback was very helpful. Whew! Okay, Linda's back in her dorm now, looking at her essay about modern literature. Overall, her teacher is quite satisfied with her essay, but has underlined a couple sentences in red pen with the note, formality, next to them. Let's take a look at what's going on with these sentences. The first sentence that's marked reads, the author wrote the book during the year which he moved to France in. This sentence has a grammatically correct adjective clause, but Linda now remembers from an earlier course that it's not as formal as it could be. She changes the sentence to, the author wrote the book during the year in which he moved to France. All she did to add formality here was place the preposition from the end of the clause in front of which at the beginning of the clause. This is a neat trick to add formality that can be done with lots of different prepositions. Careful though, this trick can't be used with the relative pronoun that, and remember to choose an appropriate preposition. Linda moves on to the next sentence her teacher marked. It reads, the uncle who the author lived with for several years was always supportive of his work. Linda immediately rephrases to, the uncle with who the author lived for several years was always supportive, using our preposition trick. But something's still not quite right. She scratches her head, but then remembers the word whom. This is a formal version of who, rarely used in speaking, but helpful in formal writing contexts. The trick is that it can only be used as an object, not a subject. Linda finalizes the sentence as, the uncle with whom the author lived for several years was always supportive of his work. After changing a few more sentences, she calls it a day, and so can we. But first, let's recap. Remember, an adjective clause describes a noun, just like an adjective does, but comes after the noun instead of before. The most common relative pronouns that begin adjective clauses are that, for people, places, and things, which, for places, things, and animals, who, for people and some animals, whose, to show possession, and no relative pronoun if the noun the clause is describing is an object in the clause. To boost formality, we can use the preposition plus which, whom, or whose formula to begin an adjective clause, and we can replace who with whom if it's an object in the clause. Well, that about wraps it up for today. Thanks for watching. And if you found this video helpful, check out the next adjective clause videos in this series or any of our other grammar and English language learning videos linked below. Ciao, mata ne, see you later.